live on a planet of water. Water captivates our senses. Water is fun. No water, no life. There are regions in the world that show how we can respect and use water better in the future. The Ruhr River. It gave its name to one of Europe's biggest industrial regions. The Ruhr district. This region at the heart of Germany has been stamped by coal and steel. But industrial progress cost another river its life, the Emscher. Straitjacketed into a concrete channel, the Emscher carried away all the toxic effluent of the Ruhr district. For years, the Emscher was known as the filthiest tributary of the Rhine. Then in the 1980s, local people started protesting. The beginning of a project unmatched worldwide, restoring a whole river system with a total length of 350 kilometers. The aim was to turn the Emscher and its tributaries once again into a natural lifeline with no waste water. People and nature were to regain what industrialization had taken from them. This would also benefit the Emscher bullhead, the reincarnation of a natural landscape. How is that possible? The Villa Hügel in Essen is a symbol of power and wealth in the Ruhr district. This was the residence, up until the 1950s, of the Krupp industrial dynasty, made rich by steel production. Nowadays, the Villa Hügel is a museum. Below the spacious grounds, the Ruhr has been dammed. The proud river, which gave its name to the Ruhr district, provides the region with drinking water. No belching chimneys obscure the view here. No stinking waste water assaults the noses of the residents. The beauty of the Ruhr was preserved because of the decision to establish heavy industry further to the north. In the 19th and 20th centuries, Germany's biggest conurbation grew up between Duisburg and Dortmund. Coal was mined here on a massive scale to produce coke and steel. This results in toxic wastewater that has to be disposed of. By the end of the 19th century, this job was given to a small river running through the middle of the whole Ruhr district, the Emscher. But it was far more than the river could cope with. Again and again, heavy rainfall made the Emscher flood its banks, and since it increasingly carried human waste, lethal epidemics spread. To stop the flooding, the engineers of the day saw only one answer: taming the river. From 1906 on, the Emscher was straightened and placed in a concrete bed. A natural river gradually became a sewage canal. For nearly 120 years, responsibility for all modifications of the river has lain with the Emscher Genossenschaft, a cooperative of cities, towns and companies along the Emscher. The river's source in rural Holzwickede, east of Dortmund, is buried deep in the forest. There's nothing here to indicate the degradation facing the Emscher once it leaves this natural idyll. At one time there were kingfishers all along the Emscher. After the river and its tributaries were canalized, its source remained the only place where nature could unfold freely. Robert Donoso-Büchner grew up by the Emscher and is fascinated by the wildlife in the water.
Die Emscher Quelle bringt einen so ein bisschen wieder dazu.
The source of the Emscher shows you what the river must once have been like. Clear water and any amount of microorganisms, which are simply essential for a little river like this. When I look at the polluted stretches of the Emscher, it really hurts, because I just know that in its past history, it was a genuinely fascinating waterway.
Ein wirklich faszinierendes Gewässer war.
The blame for the transformation into an open sewer lies with coal mining. Because of collapsing coal seams, it was too risky to put sewage pipes underground. Instead, wastewater from industry and households flows openly through the canalized Emscher and its many tributaries. The concrete canals are not just ugly, many of them are lethal. If you fall in, there's no guarantee you'll get out. With a total length of 350 kilometers, the Emscher and its tributaries form one of the dirtiest canal networks in Europe. The Ruhr district should actually be called the Emscher district. The Emscher is probably the only river in the world that flows into a sewage plant shortly before its mouth. Even then, the water that empties into the Rhine near Duisburg is not really clean. The color of the water shows how polluted the Emscher still is. But there are people living along the Emscher who are not prepared to accept the situation, like Robert Donoso-Büchner. He is the technical and biological director of the Sea Life Aquarium in Oberhausen. Visitors are particularly attracted to the colorful fish from the tropics, but he's passionate about the fish of his homeland. They've fascinated him since childhood.
My father quite naturally asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I said I wanted to do something with animals. He scratched his head in bewilderment and said, "What, you want to be a butcher?" Well, that wasn't exactly what I had in mind.
Robert Donoso-Büchner had other ideas. He's always promoted the survival of indigenous fish species. He's particularly interested in one fish, the bullhead. This small edible fish used to be common in the Emscher. People living along the Emscher have also been protesting for years. Some residential areas in Castrop-Rauxel lie just a stone's throw from the canal, a wonderful location if it weren't for the smell of the sewage. Towards the end of the 1980s, some neighbours got together to protest about the stench. The People on the Emscher Action Group is now celebrating its 30th anniversary. The activists have themselves profited from the economic boom of the Ruhr district. But little oases like this, requiring a lot of work, suffered under one severe drawback, the Emscher, which they scorned as die Schwatte, the black scourge.
There used to be a garage here with "The Schwatte gets up our noses" in big letters on the door. You might say that was what struck everybody, right?
And the stink got everywhere, right into the bedroom.
Back then, if someone said, "Hey, there's a flat coming free near us," they'd say, "Oh, yes, down by the Emscher." Well, maybe not, eh?
It's just not normal for sewage to run through a housing estate.
And that was actually the origin of our association. We took that situation as the trigger and said, this can't go on.
The people on the Emscher timed their protest well. From the end of the 1950s, heavy industry in the Ruhr district was in crisis. From over 400 coal mines, only 11 survived the 1990s. The last bit closes in 2018. Hundreds of thousands of miners have lost their jobs. Time for a reorientation of the Ruhr district. Nowadays, the Zollern mine in Dortmund is preserved as an industrial monument, recalling the heyday of the black gold. For the first time, its demise promises new perspectives for the environment. The people on the Emscher had waited a long time for that. When the first pits closed, they started to call the slogans of the captains of industry into question.
The Emscher, a black river forever, that was no longer acceptable for us, because you could see that other regions were handling water differently. They had treatment plants, which sadly, we just didn't have.
At first, it was just a few neighbours who took to the streets in Castrop-Rauxel to find supporters who would fight alongside them for a cleaner Emscher. Their strategy was simple and direct.
We took water samples and had them analysed. Then we could tell people just what was in it, pollutants and everything, poisons that cause cancer. That was the campaign we waged, and the media were always there, which was great. They really supported us a lot.
As Detlef said, when these problems were published, it was a shock for the Emscher Cooperative. They, of course, immediately denied it. It was exaggerated and so on. But that actually prompted new articles in the newspapers, which again helped us.
In Dortmund, too, residents demanded answers from those responsible. The romantically sited moated castle Delvig House is just a few meters away from the Delvig Brook, a tributary of the Emscher that had been canalized for decades. Once mining ended, and dramatic mine subsidence was no longer a threat, the Emscher cooperative began an experiment here. Pipes were laid underground, parallel to the canal, to carry wastewater from a nearby housing estate directly to a sewage treatment plant. Thanks to the pipeline, the Delvig Brook could be rid not only of sewage, but also of its concrete bed. Nowadays, the forest is a nature reserve and home to rare species, like the viviparous lizard. In their new habitat, the toads are tuning up for mating. Following the initial success, the authorities could begin planning on a larger scale. In 2009, work began on the construction of a huge underground canal designed to free the Emscher from its sewage burden. But this is a densely populated area. How can you retrofit a massive pipeline underground? The answer came, unsurprisingly, in the Ruhr district from mining. 30-meter shafts were constructed, which enabled the sewage pipes to be placed in the earth one by one. Through a stretch of the new sewage canal already completed, pipe sections are transported by trolleys to where they're to be installed. Their destination lies 10 kilometers away, deep below the Ruhr district. Here, the new sewage pipes are fitted together, gradually forming a new sewage system. Pipes like these will in future rid the Emscher of its dirty load. In Bottrop's Berner Park, they're being used as hotel rooms.
Let's see if we can get the pipe hotel open. Oh, I'm pleasantly surprised. Crazy.
It looks very cozy, really.
Just imagine, the wastewater from the Emscher will soon be passing through pipes like this. And, well, I'm not exactly short. Could you have imagined it in this size?
You could use it as a summer house. Klaus, try it out.
Not bad. It's quite lonely in a sewage pipe. Take a look yourself. What's he like?
The Citizens Action Group is impressed by the long-awaited technical advance.
Imagine, we're now able to push pipes like these through the earth in lengths of up to 1,000 meters. They're watertight afterwards. And they'll last at least 100 years.
100 Jahre Bestand haben soll.
But before the Emscher can flow through the region free of sewage, the new pipes have to be connected to treatment plants. The Emscher district will eventually have 5 treatment plants to purify the wastewater from 2.2 million inhabitants and from trade and industry. A new future is planned for the existing treatment plant through which the Emscher currently flows. Soon it will no longer be fed by Emscher water, but by the new sewage pipes. These towers already turn the organic matter of the treatment plant into digester gas, used to produce electricity and gas. That too is a major step forward. For years, hardly anyone believed that anything could have remained alive in the Emscher, apart from bacteria. Fish expert Robert Danozo-Büchner thought differently and continues looking in the smaller tributaries for signs of life.
$55, 777.
He bases his hope on measuring equipment that tests the water quality. Evidently, there are some canal stretches that are less polluted than others. One of the streams with better water quality is the Boyer. In its lower reaches, shortly before it joins the Emscher, it's polluted with sewage. But above the discharges, it's worth taking a closer look. After many failed attempts, he makes a sensational discovery. A living bullhead.
Die Wasserwerte, die ich analysiert hatte,
The water values that I analysed actually indicated that nothing could live here.
nichts vorkommen kann.
Obviously, the fish hadn't read the results, because they are to be found here. And that was a big surprise.
Und das hat mich sehr verwundert.
The bullhead, also known as the freshwater sculpin, grows up to 16 centimeters. It's not a good swimmer, so it prefers to hug the riverbed, where it feeds on insect larvae. The bullhead can't actually survive in polluted water, unless there are freshwater springs to provide it with oxygen. Is this bullhead the last of its kind in the Emscher? Robert Danozo-Büchner reported his rare find to Bernd Stemmer of the Fisheries Authority.
Hello, Mr. Danozo. How are things? Have you got something?
Nothing at the moment. A few sticklebacks, but that's it. There must be some here. I'll see if I can find something up here again.
The bullhead could have been a lucky catch, but its discoverer wants to show the fisheries officer that he wasn't dreaming.
Nothing. Hey, I've got one.
Oh, really? Super. That shows us that they're also reproducing here.
That's an angle. Awesome.
Terrific. That's great. Several generations in one.
Das ist eine absolute
That's a massive surprise, because there are only a few kilometres here where bullheads can live at all. Further down, there's more pollution. Any fish down there would die. So it's an absolute sensation that the creatures have survived here for over a century.
erhalten haben so.
How many others have you seen?
I've had maybe 25 bullheads here.
I think we should carry out systematic electrofishing.
Electrofishing allows the biologist to find out how many bullheads have survived in this stream. Just a few kilometers below the discovery location on the Boyer, the stream becomes a sewage canal. The bullheads couldn't survive here. Over the decades, chemicals and excrement have destroyed streams like this. Before fish can live and reproduce again, the Emscher and over 30 tributaries must become natural waterways again. Perhaps the discovery of a rare breed of fish can convince the authorities that it's not too late. the Emscher still runs through Dortmund in its old concrete bed. Buried under this steelworks in the Herder district, it was almost forgotten. Every 20 minutes, the sky darkened here as steel was produced. But that's long gone now. Hardly anyone realized that the Emscher flowed in a pipe under the factory site. Until the steelworks was demolished in 2002. Deep down, water emerged. After over a century, the Emscher in Dortmund-Herder once again saw the light of day. Willi Gart worked in the steelworks and knows the story of the Emscher.
We're standing here on the old Emscher Canal. Earlier the Emscher flowed freely here, but it had to be entubed when the works arrived. We boys from the neighborhood, 8 or 9 years old, went into the Herder Brook tunnel with a candle. And if the candle had gone out, it would have been lights out for us too.
The dodgy Brook tunnel in Herder no longer exists. The Emscher and one of its tributaries were opened up and planted. Willi Gart experienced the transformation. Heavy industry has given way to a new era.
The opening up of the Herder Brook at its confluence was a very special experience for me, because I'd never seen the brook before, or at least only as a sewer at the entrance. After that, it was in a pipe right up to here, where no one could see neither the brook nor the Emscher. That was a wonderful experience.
The city of Dortmund didn't want just the Emscher to have a new setting. Where the steelworks once stood, it planned a 24-hectare lake. In 2010, the new Lake Phoenix was filled with groundwater and drinking water. A lake which is not only a huge aesthetic enhancement of the Herder district, it's also designed in storm conditions to hold the excess rainwater, to prevent the Emscher from flooding. It's a new dimension in landscaping. Jetties for boats, promenades, bars and restaurants. A whole new leisure area has been created on the Emscher. The renaturalized Emscher meanders along the lakeside, where around 2,000 upmarket housing units have been built to take advantage of the Lake Phoenix location. The nearby vineyard recalls the earlier history of the Ruhr district. Prior to industrialization, Dortmund was surrounded by agriculture. Willi Gart has followed the transformation of the steelworks into a lakeside leisure area. He's trying out a pedal boat for the first time. Canada geese were among the first to occupy the man-made habitat. Where belching chimneys once stood, pike now glide majestically over the bed of the lake. These predators were introduced deliberately to keep down the numbers of smaller fish. For Willy Gard, who watched Lake Phoenix rising from the ashes, the boat trip brings back memories.
Ja, das ist ein Gefühl, das kann man gar
It's
nicht
a feeling I
beschreiben.
can't describe.
Ich habe
I've followed the lake from the outset.
begleitet, aber jetzt
But now that I'm actually sailing where we used to work, it's really incredible.
tatsächlich die Arbeitsplätze.
A fantastic feeling.
Unwahrscheinlich. Tolles Gefühl hier.
Like the Emscher at Lake Phoenix, its tributaries are also gradually being renaturalized, creating new habitats for rare animal species. Whether the bullhead has a chance in the new waterways will be shown by electrofishing. As senior biologist at the Emscher Cooperative, Mario Sommerhäuser shares responsibility for the renaturation of the canals. Together with Bernd Stemmer of the Fisheries Authority, he wants to find out if the bullhead can reproduce in the renaturalized areas.
Ah, die ist schon ein bisschen größer. Mal gucken, er hat auch 5 bis 10 hat die. Schon wieder eine große.
Every fish that's netted has been mildly stunned by fishing with electricity. It's measured and recorded.
Über 10, 10 bis 15.
The Emscher Cooperative's biologist is delighted by the large number of bullheads.
It's a huge surprise, a waterway full of sewage for decades, and here we find a kind of fish that's really special.
But elsewhere, as at the gasometer in Oberhausen, the Emscher looks like it has for years. No place for a special fish. The bullhead expert needs a strong argument for speeding up renaturing. He finds it under the microscope. The bullhead he's discovered is a species that's only found in one of the Emscher tributaries, the Emscher bullhead.
That was a powerful argument, that it's a protected species, and even more, that it's a special species.
Dass eben eine besondere Art ist.
He's convinced that the authorities have to do more for the survival of the bullhead. For way over 100 years, the Ruhr district was the center of German industry, the guarantor of the economic miracle. But times have changed. Day and night, the Ruhr district is busy reinventing itself. There's still industry here. But it's cleaner now, and its wastewater has been banished underground. Treatment plants turned into artworks, colliery winding towers into museums. The biggest mining lamp in the world casts its light onto a new future. The restructuring of the river system is motivating and changing the whole region.
Jetzt ist schon okay. So.
In Castrop-Rauxel, the people on the Emscher Action Group have organized a cycling tour for people to witness firsthand the massive changes the restructuring has brought about. The new sewage system has not yet been connected to treatment plants, and in Castrop-Rauxel, the Emscher still stinks. But new cycle paths along the river are already pointing the way to a more attractive Ruhr district. This waterway intersection, above the navigable Rhein-Herne Canal, below the Emscher, has been restored at great expense. In some places, the Emscher is already showing its new face.
Look, the ducks down there on the Emscher.
It's incredible. You never used to see that.
It's really nice now, isn't it? It's become a local recreation feature for Castrop, for the whole region. Everything they've done.
Before, I don't think we could really imagine it. When they first planned it, we thought it would all come to nothing.
And if you think back to our childhood, how the Emscher stank, how the Emscher looked, the concrete basins, it's really fabulous when you see it now.
Can you remember summer back then? The smell of rotten eggs.
Yes, the smell.
The entire Emscher system is due to be renaturized by 2020, carrying only purified water and rainwater along its whole length. The cycle tour carries on to Dortmund-Mengede. Here, the engineers have built a dam to protect the lower-lying surroundings from floods. The newly created buffer zone of reeds and meadows covers an area of 46 football pitches. In times of high water, the Emscher can now be regulated via the dam, a genuine improvement for the locals.
In the past, at frequent intervals, the estate here would have had its cellars underwater. Then over the years, that's been put right. First, they built pumping stations, and now, as a follow-up, this rainwater reservoir is part of the renaturing and restructuring. For me, that's a dream come true. Just a dream, how it's all progressed.
It's not only people who benefit from the retention basin. The wetland attracts rare birds, like lapwings. For bird lovers, it's sensational that they're coming to the Ruhr district for the breeding season. The grey heron also finds fresh food in this part of the Emscher. Just how fast flora and fauna can reclaim their habitat is evident at the man-made Lake Ewald. It used to provide a colliery with cooling water. When the mine closed, the lake was left to its own devices. Now it's been taken over by coots, while foxes inhabit the shore. Ground subsidence caused by mining produced hollows which are now used as inundation areas. The boggy shore zones are ideal for the rare grass snake. Once freed from their concrete shells, streams burst into new life, as is shown by a lot of the Emscher's tributaries. By 2016, 40% of them have a noticeably fresher face. But all these tributaries feed into the river, and its renovation is still largely pending. Before the Emscher becomes a natural waterway again, there are still some questions to be answered. How will the current behave when the canal is freed of its concrete bed? Is there enough space everywhere for the river to spread out? a practical test to see if the volume of water behaves as it does in model trials. The last of the polluted sediment is dredged up after the old concrete bed has already been removed. In this test section, the banks are remodeled to allow the Emscher to develop naturally, and it finds its own way without any unforeseen problems. The diggers can press on ahead to the estuary 50 kilometers away. The history of the Emscher goes back a lot further than that of the Ruhr district. Over 14,000 years ago, people had already settled in the then wild river meadows. It's the remodeling of the Emscher that first allows archaeologists to uncover the river's great secrets. Scientific excavations bring to light tens of thousands of testimonies from different epochs. They all speak of the fascinating history of a river that for most of its life was far more than a wastewater canal. The finds have been taken to the archaeological archive in Münster for closer examination. They include the tusk of a mammoth, up to 50,000 years old. At the time, the Emscher was a raging torrent. Every find is measured precisely, registered, and carefully processed to preserve it for posterity. Paleontologist Lothar Schöllmann and archaeologist Jürgen Pape are trying to piece together a precise picture of the early life of the Emscher. Ancient fishing hooks show that the Emscher was rich in fish. The hooks are actually big enough for pike and perch. And the bullhead was also there thousands of years ago.
So it was a fantastic river for the people who lived there at the time. We have these fishing hooks and the bow net. And we also have fences made of wattle, which were placed across the river. So we can practically establish the development of the Emscher, the living environment, from the late Ice Age to the present.
And not only fish, a sturdy breed of horse also lived by the river. The Emscher marshland broadheads roamed the Emscher floodplains up until the 19th century, when they were rounded up and taken to nearby Dülmen. Perhaps some could be returned to their ancient stamping ground. They'd be useful as natural lawnmowers. The ancient broadhead horses would help bring the history of the Emscher back to life. Even if the river can never again be exactly as it was then.
We can't
restore a river that was a sewage canal for 100 years to what it once was, a meandering lowland river set in a huge marshland. But distinctive animal species we once had here, like the wild horses, really could be reintroduced in some places.
It wouldn't be the first vision to be made reality on the Emscher. A At many points between its source at Holzwickede and its estuary on the Rhine, the Emscher and its tributaries have now become near-natural waterways again. A dirty steelworks has made way for modern lakeside architecture. And finally, the great dream of Robert Donoso Büchner has come true: the rescue of the Emscher bullhead. The young fish caught in a tributary of the Emscher can now look forward to a new, clean habitat.
Genau hier.
Bernd Stemmer and Mario Sommerhäuser released them into a renatured stream in the middle of Dortmund.
Slowly does it. So long then.
Yes, they're off. They're swimming.
Wonderful, a whole lot.
The biologists are confident that the bullheads can establish themselves here. The first ones occupy their new territory straight away and defend it tenaciously. After the smaller tributaries, it will take a few years for them to spread into the Emscher as well. Some of the streams are already so clean that even brook trout have returned. The first sticklebacks, which were very common here prior to industrialization, have been spotted. By 2020, the Emscher itself, along its full length, will become a clean waterway for fish. But at the mouth of the river into the Rhine, there's still an insurmountable obstacle. A weir prevents fish swimming from the Emscher into the Rhine and vice versa. In future, things should get easier. Engineers and biologists are planning an over 20-hectare meadow landscape 700 meters from the present mouth. It will form part of a new estuary. A large new wetland area will enable fish to swim from one river to the other without barriers. The cycle tour, organized by the people on the Emscher, ends behind the dike at the mouth of the Emscher. The Citizens Action Group from Castrop-Rauxel have committed themselves for the last 30 years to turning a sewage canal into a river again. The new Emscher is nearing completion. Many people still find it incredible that it's actually been possible to create a new lifeline in the middle of the Ruhr district.
And that we should live to see this. That we should live to see the Emscher being clean, eh?
Our parents would never have believed that something like this could happen, ever.
Our parents wouldn't have thought it possible. They just wouldn't.
Let's wait and see.
The demise of the coal and steel industry has markedly changed the Ruhr district. Industry and nature are well on the way towards reconciliation. Soon, people will no longer remember the Emscher as a sewage canal. The new river is bringing life back into a region which is capable of converting the sins of the past into opportunities for the future. reconstruction of the Emscher has given water a new significance. Water is not only the origin of life. Water also gives us the strength to remake the world.